everyone, Shireen here and welcome back to my channel. Today we are doing photo portfolio reviews. I'm so excited about this. So you all sent in your photos. Today we are going to be going through them. I will be critiquing them and giving you feedback about how to improve. Now, disclaimer, just because I am giving you critiques and telling you how to change your image does not mean by any means that you have to follow what I'm telling you to do, nor that what I'm saying is right. Ultimately, these are your photos, this is your portfolio, and you know yourself and your work best. I'm just telling you from an outside perspective what I think you can do to improve. Now, for those of you who don't know who I am a Los Angeles-based content creator, photographer, and videographer. Something you may not know about me is that I actually used to do wedding videography. Through wedding videography, I learned a lot about photography and composition, which translated over to videography. Because if you really think about it, videos are essentially motion pictures. You know what I mean? The basis of it all comes from photography, composition, understanding light, the whole shebang. So when I was doing wedding videography, my boss would have me do photo shoots outside of the wedding videos that we would do. And I would submit those photos to him, and then he would give me critiques. And then each time it just helped me grow so much as a creative. So I hope that through these critiques, I can do the same for you, because let's just all keep the ball rolling, help each other out. That's how we grow, right? Just through practice and learning and sharing our knowledge. So let's get into it. First up, we have some travel photos from my girl Charlotte. Fun fact, we actually met through Adobe Creator Camp, met up in person, and she's literally the sweetest. Love her. So this first photo that we have here is this drone shot of Hawaii, which is absolutely stunning. Right off the bat, the first thing that I would change is right in the center where you have yourself and your friend. I would go into Photoshop and use either the healing brush tool or spot healing brush tool. You could even use the content aware fill tool and just remove yourself, just so it gives it a more cleaner look. I would also do the same thing to the car on the right side of the frame and that little building situation going on, just so you have an overall cleaner image and are removing those distracting elements. You could even get rid of the lifeguard tower over there, but I kind of like it. It adds to the location, you know, but you could get rid of it for the sake of having a clean landscape photo. And then another thing I would do is back over here on the right, you see that little tree or whatever that is that's sticking out, and it's a different type of tree, it's taller than all the rest. Same thing, just go ahead and spot heal that out in Photoshop. But other than that, it's a really solid photo. So one tip that I have for landscape photos is pick either the sky or the bottom of the frame, whatever it may be. Grass, ocean, yada yada. Whatever is more interesting, have that fill up about 2/3 of your frame. So in this case, the sky doesn't seem incredibly interesting, and I actually really love what's going on with the black. It adds a lot of contrast. So in this case, girl, you nailed it. I love it. Next, we have this sunset photo and another drone shot. So for this one, like I was saying, here the sky seems a bit more interesting to me than the bottom part. So I see where you're going with this. I love that this whole walkway is included, but because it's center frame, it's not a very compelling photo. I would try to stay within the rule of thirds and have whatever your focus is be on one of those thirds. So in this case, if you just cropped in a little bit and had this walkway on the right hand side of frame, it would instantly be a lot more of a compelling image. And then if you just waited maybe like 30 seconds to a minute, maybe 2 minutes, however long it would take for the sun to go down, because I know it goes down really quickly. If you just waited for it to go down just a smidge, you could get a really nice radiant sunset instead of it being so blown out like that. And then another thing that you could do is bring down the drone a little bit and have it be a little bit more angled up so we see more of the sky, and that would just look fabulous. You could even try getting level with that walkway and then have that be the center of your frame. That could actually work. If you have some sort of symmetry going on and that's just a leading line down the middle, that could look really beautiful. Next, we have another drone shot, and the focus point right here is, I believe this is a church, a building. So for this, I would go back a little bit more because right now, you see how that fence at the bottom is kind of cropped and it's not fully straight. I would pull back a little bit more so that we have a little bit more room to breathe. But then I would also bring down the camera so you're more head on with the actual building itself, and then not cropping the mountains in the background. So make sure that you also see some of the sky. Now with this, I do see there are some wires in the way, and that can get a little bit tricky because they're going to be blocking the building, and obviously that's the focal point of this shot, and we really want to see that. So you could go into Photoshop and just clean that out again with either spot heal or healing brush tool, clone stamp even. It might be a little bit tedious, but it would definitely clean up the image a lot. And you could also get rid of the car and the people over on the left, and then also get rid of the little banner that's at the bottom right. I would also pull back enough so that you can see the building on the right as well, and then have the church building be on the left side of frame and then the other building on the right side of frame. That way you have a bit of balance and symmetry going on. You could also just completely eliminate the building on the right and go in a little bit tighter on that building, the church building, but again, with the wires, I know that may be a little bit tricky and probably not possible. So I know you did your best with the location, with what you could, you know. Overall, beautiful drone shots, keep crushing it. Next up, we have Pete. This first image is immaculate. I love it. If I had to be super picky, the only thing that I would really change is up at the top where the bottle is coming to a head, like around where the bottle cap is. You see how on the left, that line is a little bit, like it's going like this and then it goes straight up. I would just take that into Photoshop, and you could take the other side of the bottle, copy it, flip it, and then paste it over. That way it just looks more clean and symmetrical. But otherwise, this is great. For this next image, right off the bat, the wooden stick and the coaster don't really add anything to this story for me. If anything, they look a little bit distracting and out of place. I'm not really sure what the purpose is. It might just be to convey the name of the brand or their logo. I'm not entirely sure, but I think it would make for a more compelling image if those were removed because they're just not really adding anything. Another thing to keep in mind is right now in the right-hand side of the frame, you see where that shadow is being cut off and you see that rectangle. What you can do to make that look cleaner is go into Photoshop and use either the clone stamp tool or healing brush and just extend that out. That way you have a clean diagonal line. You could also pull back your light source a little bit so you're not getting as harsh of a shadow over on the right-hand side of frame. You could also experiment with having some sort of paper backdrop at the bottom, so that way you have separation between the bottom half and then the top half, and that looks really cool for Instagram photos and just marketing in general. I see that being done a lot, and brands definitely love that. Another thing to keep in mind is the framing. So the way it's framed is a little bit too cropped in on the right. Leave a little bit more breathing room, or alternatively, just move that glass over just a smidge so it's not so close to the edge of the frame. For this next image, composition is great. I love it. The whole paper backdrop thing with the separation of color, that's exactly what I was talking about, and you nailed it. I love the way the syrup is being poured, the way the lemons are placed, everything. The styling is just really nice. For that lemon, the one that's not cut, what you could do is clean that up just a bit so you see where there's a little bit of a shadow. It looks just ever so slightly bruised. And then also towards the top right of that lemon, you could just clean that up in Photoshop. And then same thing with the cut lemon. I would just get rid of the seed just so it looks cleaner. As far as framing goes, it's cropped in a little bit too close to the left right now to those lemons. So it needs a little bit more breathing space. So I would have just pulled back a little bit and had the framing on the left and right side of the image be even. Overall, great work. You're doing amazing. Next up, we have some photos from Christelle. For For this first one, this flower looks absolutely stunning. I would make that the focal point of the image by cropping in a bit tighter on that flower and having that white part fill the top left part of the frame and have that leaf and stick that's leading up to it guide you from the right, you know? So just really crop in a bit more on that flower. You could also take it into Photoshop and clean up that petal on the right that has that brown staining on it, just to give the overall image a cleaner look. Something you want to keep in mind when you're framing images and you have something coming out of the side is to not have that object or whatever it may be coming directly from the corner. So in this case, with the branch of the flower, y'all, I don't know my terms. Listen, this was not my field of expertise, okay? But you don't want that coming directly from the corner of the frame. Have it come from either a little bit above or a little bit to the right. I really sat here and said branch of the flower. It's the stem. I went to school, okay? I know these things. Just not right now. For this next image, I love the leading line of the lake. The greenery is stunning. The thing that's a bit distracting to me is those orange leaves in the tree on the right side of the frame. In this case, I think it could actually work to your benefit to have the stream be going straight down the center. I know I said try to keep things on the rule of thirds, but rules are there to be broken, and symmetry always has a time and place. So in this case, since the background, the mountains are pretty even, it's not sloping up or anything like that, you could really get away with having a nice symmetrical shot with the lake being, or the stream rather, being a leading line down the middle. For this next photo of the palm trees, I see what you're going for and I love it. I would have just taken a few more steps just so that you would get that palm tree coming from the left out of frame. It's a little bit distracting in this composition, and if you would get rid of it, it would create that nice symmetry and look way more balanced. Alternatively, you could also just take it into Photoshop and use content-aware fill to get rid of it. To further clean up the image, you can also use the heal tool or spot heal tool or even content-aware fill in Photoshop to get rid of the sign on the right and then also the people in the background. That would just clean up the image way more and make it look like a really nice landscape photo. Crystal, and get out there in nature and keep doing your thing. It's beautiful. Next, we have some photos from Joseph. The lighting here is perfect, and I love the separation between the background and the subject. It just looks very clean, and I love how it's red on red. It actually works in this case. The lighting really just makes it look amazing. As far as the pose of the model goes, I'm not really feeling it, especially for a portfolio shot. I'm not really sure what this image is telling me. She looks a little bit worried in the face, and I don't love how her shoulder is covering her jaw. So I would have her position either her chin up a little bit, and you see how it's kind of creating these creases on her neck. I would just have her elongate her neck more, and also just bring down the shoulder just ever so slightly so that you see more jaw definition. That straight away would create a much more compelling image as far as the face goes. And then also maybe try to not cover this side of her face. Like push back the hair a little bit so that you see more of the face. The other thing that's throwing me off about the pose is how her back is curved and you see the back of the dress gaping a little bit. So I know that with some dresses, they tend to do that depending on how you're standing. So I would just have her stand in a way that looks a little bit more natural, and that way you also eliminate the gap in the back of the dress. To further clean up the image, you could also clean up the hair on her back. You see where it's kind of coming out a little bit, that one strand? I would just get rid of that to make it look cleaner. And then also you could have it kind of fade into her back so it doesn't look like it's a lob or something and then all this long hair in the back. Just kind of taper it inwards. You could also get rid of the wispy pieces at the front of her hair to further clean up the hair. For this next image, again, looks really great with the background. I love how it's blue on blue. The thing I'm not really understanding here is why the pants are unbuttoned. It's not really adding anything to this for me. If anything, it's kind of giving me Zara vibes. Like, if that's what you were going for, then spot on. I'm guessing that's not what you were going for, so I would just have the pants buttoned and also have some hair tucked either back a little bit more or positioned a little bit differently so that you see her eye. I think that would definitely add some more interest to the image. For the framing, it's a little bit too cropped in and tight right now. I would leave a bit more headspace and space on the sides so that the image has some room to breathe. And you could do that by stepping back or just zooming out on your lens, depending on what lens you're shooting with. For this next image, love it. Very compelling. I love the colors and everything. The only thing I would note is to try to not crop the image where her shoulder is at. You want to try to avoid cropping images on any sorts of joints or body parts, so like don't cut off hands and wrists or fingers or anything like that, you know? So you could have her or yourself positioned a bit more to the right so that you have a little bit more of the shoulder and you're not really cropping it off right there. Overall though, solid images. I love it. Last but not least, we have some images from Troy. This sunset looks absolutely stunning. I would actually go straight to the water, forget the grass and whatever is going on. That's not as compelling as what is going on behind it. So I would have the frame start with the water at the bottom 1/3 of the frame, and then have the sky fill up the rest of the 2/3 of the frame. And then also wait for the sun to go down a little bit more, so that way when it reaches the horizon or just even fully goes down, it'll create a softer and more ethereal look as opposed to being this goblet of fire in the center right now. But otherwise, love the lighting and everything going on. Really, really beautiful. For this next image, I'm not entirely sure what is going on, but it looks very interesting. So since the main action right here is at the bottom, instead of having the building in the shot too, I would get it in tighter and just focus more on the fiery sparks going on, but still have the people in the shot too, you know? So you want to kind of think about this in terms of concert photography. You know, when you look at them, you see everybody in the crowd, and then you see like the DJ or whatever. That's what I think about when I look at this image. It would really benefit from that type of shot. So in this case, you have your audience over here on the left, and that can fill up the bottom 1/2 of the frame, and then you can have this guy holding whatever that is with the spark be positioned on the right hand side of the frame, like that right hand line, if you're thinking about it in a grid, and then have a leading line kind of leading up towards the left hand side of frame with that stick in the fire, and that will look a lot more visually compelling. For this last photo, we have a macro shot of, I believe, a leaf or something, and it's not all in focus, and I know it can be really tricky with macro lenses. It can be very finicky. So in order to have your main subject in focus, you could focus stack the image, so you could take multiple images, just focusing on different parts of it being in focus, and then take them into Photoshop and just merge them all basically. You could also try shooting with a higher f-stop. So for me, I find that if I shoot around f/2, I get more details and more of the subject in focus when I'm shooting with a macro lens. I love the bokeh in the background though, and the lighting is really nice. I would just make sure that that subject is really in focus. I love your eye for lighting. Keep chasing the light. So that is it for the photo reviews. Thank you all so much for submitting your images, and I really hope that you found these critiques helpful. Again, just remember, you don't have to take anything that I said to heart. At the end of the day, you know your images and your style the best, so keep doing you. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!